how we can work with jQuery, right? We are going to see working with jQuery. So today we are going to learn what is jQuery and how jQuery is used and handled. So once you are good with the JavaScript language and all its options, so one of the major problems with JavaScript is technically, in order to use JavaScript, the main issue with the JavaScript is, the major issues with JavaScript, JavaScript uses lot of references, uses lot of references. So lot of coding, lot of references. So lengthy logic, right? So we have to say lengthy logic to handle the interactions, because in order to access element, use the element, lot of references are required. So lengthy logic we need to write. And another major problem with JavaScript is JavaScript have compatibility issues. So browser compatibility issues. So as per the browser, according to the browser, the functionality need to be handled. So lot of references, lot of coding, lengthy, it is slow in rendering and all this. So that is the problem of JavaScript in general. Actually, JavaScript has several more drawbacks. Like we already know, it is not a completely OOP language. It is not strongly typed language. So many problems are there with JavaScript. So here the key point is to overcome the issues of JavaScript, like references, coding, lengthy logic, compatibility issues. So in 2006, so John Resig, he introduced a library for JavaScript. He introduced a library for JavaScript. So library for JavaScript by name jQuery. So he introduced this library. Actually, a library is nothing but library in computer programming. Comprises of predefined classes and functions. So predefined classes and functions, so which you can import and inject into existing application. So that means without writing much. So you can handle the functionality. Without writing much, you can handle the functionality, because already functions are written for you. You have to just access and use it. So without writing much, so we can handle the functionality. That is what actually the intention of jQuery. Library. A library means in computer programming, it contains predefined functions, classes. That means already designed them. The main advantage, there are several features actually. So the main features. So what are the main features of this library. Features of jQuery. The main features of jQuery, it is very fast. So very fast in communication. And it supports extensibility, easy extensibility, maintainability, testability. So, and that means it is easy to extend the logic without writing much. It is easy to maintain and test our applications, Reusability is the main concern actually. So that means it enables lot of reusable functions. So without writing much, we can just use existing functions, and that is why actually its main slogan is write less and do more. That is actually the main slogan of jQuery. Wherever you see jQuery, the official tagline of jQuery is write less, do more. It improves the performance. And it is lightweight, and it is cross-platform. That means it can run on any operating system services, any device. So the main purpose, another point is it reduces compatibility issues. That means according to the browser, it uses the functions. For different browsers, it uses different functions. It reduces the compatibility issues. It can reach any device. That means from a mobile to browser, it can work everywhere. JavaScript also can work anywhere, but here, so it reduces the compatibility issues. Actually, jQuery even supports a concept called differential loading. Due to that, it reduces the compatibility. Differential loading means jQuery have a library which will be used according to the device you are using. That means according to the browser you are using. So if you are using Internet Explorer, jQuery uses the plugins for Internet Explorer. If you are using Chrome, it uses the plugins for Chrome. That means jQuery provides a lot of plugins. Generally, plugins are nothing but they are software tools which are responsible for handling specific functionality on any device. JavaScript is completely combination of plugins. So jQuery is completely combination of plugins. But remember, so here the point is jQuery is not only the library. Like jQuery, so many libraries are there. So other libraries like jQuery, we have RxJS. RxJS is a library. React.js is a library. And Glimmer is a library. Glimmer.js is a library. JQLite is a library. So many libraries are there. So jQuery is the primary library that we use in real world development. Actually, we have other libraries like RxJS, React.js, Glimmer, and jQuery. React.js, we will see how to use it, how do we work with that. We will see here in our full stack development process. So jQuery is not only the library, several other libraries are there. But majority of the application development in the current world environment is done with jQuery only. So, but remember, jQuery library is built with JavaScript only. That means finally, without JavaScript, there is nothing, any library. So every library is built with JavaScript only, which we are discussing. So JavaScript is the language, and JavaScript language is required for every library. jQuery is completely built with JavaScript only. What is advantage is it provides you so many functions which you can use and implement to build the application faster and easier, which we will see how to work with that. We will see actually. Technically, jQuery already we used, if you remembered, in Bootstrap, already we were using jQuery. So Bootstrap uses jQuery only. Already we downloaded jQuery also. We are integrating jQuery in several examples, but we are not individually using jQuery. So already we have jQuery in our project. So we are using Bootstrap now. And in the node modules, already we downloaded jQuery. Already we have jQuery. So jQuery installing, downloading is not new for us. Already we done it. We are using with Bootstrap. But now we will use this individually. We will see individually how jQuery can make the manipulations more better. jQuery can make the manipulations more better. That means in real-time projects, remember, in real-world projects, client side, we will not use JavaScript. We will use jQuery only very much. Very rarely we use JavaScript. But why we have to learn JavaScript so much? Because so JavaScript is the primary language used in every library again. That is the reason. Without JavaScript, you are not a web developer. But practically, you will not use JavaScript in real-time programming. In real-time application development, you will not use directly JavaScript. You will use jQuery only. That is the reason wherever you go as a web developer, JavaScript, jQuery, mandatory. So front-end developer, web developer. Web developer means so who is developing applications for web. Java, .NET, PHP, jQuery is mandatory for them. Anywhere, jQuery is mandatory. For example, I will show you here some. I'm showing you some Naukri site. This is Naukri. And in the Naukri site, suppose I am searching here for, I am searching for web developer. I am searching for the web developer with the different options they ask here. And when you look for the web developer, some web developers require some web developers here. You can see. So they ask HTML, so they ask PHP, and they ask other kind of technologies. You see JavaScript, mandatory skills. You can, I'm just going in detail about this. You can see they say that you need JavaScript. So you need, so ES standards. These are for freshers. If you are a fresher, they need the basic knowledge of understanding all this. And experience using object-oriented JavaScript. That means you have to know object-oriented JavaScript. But do you know, in reality, so in the projects, they will not directly use JavaScript. Not directly use JavaScript. If you look at all these, they say JavaScript, but they will not mention about jQuery much as a web developer. They will not mention jQuery. Everywhere you will find JavaScript. So primarily asked. You see somewhere they mentioned jQuery. But as a web developer, here in the job roles, they have mentioned JavaScript. But when you go to interview, they immediately ask like, do you know jQuery? Mandatory. So that means JavaScript is primarily asked because anybody who knows JavaScript means he knows jQuery also. That is their intention actually. Because they already know that anybody who learned JavaScript, he knows that JavaScript is not directly used in real time. That's the reason they have a combination of jQuery also. jQuery. That means JavaScript, jQuery. You will find everywhere. Wherever web developer needs, you will find everywhere. So JavaScript, jQuery. But remember, majority of work is done in jQuery, but interview is done in JavaScript. I hope everyone understood that. You will design everything with jQuery, but lot of questions asked to you is related to JavaScript. Why? Because there is nothing much to ask for a library. Library is ready-made functions. What they will ask there, a few functions only they can ask. Language is the area where they concentrate all your interview questions. You have to be very perfect in that. So we will see. So jQuery, so what jQuery can do? So what are the characteristics of jQuery? The main characteristics of jQuery can handle HTML manipulations. It can handle DOM manipulations. jQuery can handle HTML manipulation. It can handle DOM manipulations. So it can use dynamic DOM manipulations, CSS manipulations. So it can add effects and animations. It can even use AJAX, that means asynchronous modules, AJAX. So these are the major JSON parsing. All these are the work done by jQuery. We will learn them. We will see how to use them and how do we work with them. And technically, how jQuery is used with our HTML pages, how it is configured, how it is worked. So all what you have done in JavaScript, you can do in jQuery, but it is quite simple now. How it is simple, you will observe that. Let's see how to install jQuery. Nothing, already we learned now. npm install jQuery, we already installed, no need to again install. So already for Bootstrap, we installed Bootstrap. Similarly, we have to install jQuery also. Already we installed it. jQuery is already there in our project. And important is jQuery, the latest version of jQuery is 3.5. So the jQuery latest version is 3.5. That is the latest jQuery. So we, of course, any new version comes means few changes will be there. You have to check with their website what changes they have done. Because not very regularly, but versions will be changing. You need to monitor what changes are happening, and so you need to get update with those changes actually. So already jQuery is installed. How to use jQuery in our project? Let's see how we can use jQuery. How jQuery can make the performance better. How we can design by using jQuery faster. I will write here, so jQuery examples. Okay, let's create a file, some home.html. Now in this, I am designing a simple HTML document, doc type HTML head, and in the title, some jQuery demo. And in order to use jQuery, so we have to import jQuery. So we have to write a script. So jQuery library script source is equal to from node modules. So jQuery dist jQuery.js. This already we know. We are already using this in our Bootstrap. jQuery is already being used. And we have this jQuery added now. So jQuery added. Okay. Now observe carefully. This is jQuery. So I have the body section here. Okay. Now in the body section, or initially we want to display some message. First, we will see how to start jQuery. Later, we will see what are the references, how we can manage the references and define them. Technically, observe this jQuery library. Library is added, but it is not active now. Library is added, but it is not active. So you have to make the library active in order to use it. So library is added, but it is not active. You can go to this file and see. So go to that file. So go to definition. You can see this is the jQuery.js file. Let's go to node modules in a jQuery dist jQuery.js. This is the jQuery library. And 3.5 is the latest version of jQuery, and scroll down and you can see that this jQuery file, you can see this jQuery file. You observe here, this is a global function. This is a global function. That function is written in parentheses. So that function is written in parentheses. What does that means? What does that means? That function is written in parentheses. What does that means? We learned now. What does that means? So what does that means? Parenthesis means if a function is written in parenthesis means it is anonymous function. Na? Good, right? It is anonymous function, na? Right? That means entire jQuery library is present in an anonymous function. Understood? Huh? Entire jQuery library is present in an anonymous function. Understood? Huh? So tell me how to invoke an anonymous function. How to invoke anonymous function? How to invoke anonymous function? How to invoke an anonymous function? We discussed that also. How to invoke anonymous function. So already we learned jQuery is an anonymous. jQuery is present in an anonymous function. That means it is written like this. It is written like this. Entire jQuery is present in anonymous function. Anonymous function is accessed by using an empty parenthesis. Am I right? Am I right? Yeah. So this is the parenthesis that we use to invoke an anonymous function. We discussed now. I hope everyone remembered this, right? Anonymous, right? This is an anonymous function. So yeah, entire jQuery library is in anonymous function. Entire jQuery library is in anonymous function. So in order to invoke the jQuery library, so in order to invoke the jQuery library, so we use here. So here you can see in the home page, we write a script. In the script, we have to access this anonymous function present in the script file. To access an anonymous function present in the script file, we have to use $. $. is a reference. $. is a reference for accessing the functions present in this jQuery library. So the functions of jQuery library are accessible with $. operator. $. is an operator which is used for accessing the functions in jQuery library. So, and how we can access the jQuery main library? The jQuery main library is accessed by using a parenthesis. Because it is an anonymous function. It is an anonymous function, and we have to define this here. Now, very important is so this is anonymous function. This is anonymous function. We have to tell that it is a function. It is a function. So that means you can see that this is an anonymous function. That means we have to define as a function. This function should return some functionality. So that is how we have to configure. That is how we need to define. It have to return some functionality. We have to configure some functionality. This invokes jQuery. This invokes jQuery. It makes your application to use jQuery. That means now jQuery is ready. Technically now jQuery is ready. So to invoke jQuery, there are several techniques I will tell you. The first option is, so that means the first option is just you can define. So a dollar, through dollar, you can access the jQuery library, and through dollar, you can refer to jQuery library. In that, the global jQuery is accessed, which is a function, and which can handle all functionality. That means jQuery related all functions must be defined inside this. jQuery related all functions must be defined inside this global jQuery function. So this is to invoke jQuery. So now here I can write anything I want. Suppose document, suppose welcome to jQuery I am writing. So welcome to jQuery I am writing like this. That means when I run this initially, you can see that it is accessing and displaying that message here. That means it says welcome to jQuery. It is working fine. So, but what is the speciality of jQuery? We will see that. What is the advantage? Here currently I'm just displaying some messages. So jQuery function, jQuery started, and all the functionality must be written here. Now, very important, if you use this technique, that means now jQuery is ready and it can handle all browser manipulations. That means browser related objects like window object, location object, navigator object. That means now jQuery is at browser level. jQuery is taking control at browser level. If you give an anonymous function, it indicates that. So, and just write a function, it indicates that jQuery is taking control from window level. That means you know that we have DOM and we have BOM. Two options are there. So we have browser object model and we have document object model. So that means we have BOM, the parent is window. So this is browser object model. Inside Windows, several elements will be there. That means several objects will be there. In those objects, we have an object called, document. In the document, we have images and other contents. Now this is DOM. And this is BOM, browser object model. Now important is, do you want to take control from the browser model or only document model? That means if you are designing jQuery to handle only the document contents, then the best option is, you can write like this. Suppose you return like this. That means dollar and a function. This indicates you are invoking jQuery. And asking it to take control from the browser model, asking it to take control from the window. If you want to take control only for the page, then you can write like this. What you can do is, you can write like this. So dollar, inside that you can say document dot, this is document, and this document dot ready, you can say document dot ready. Ready is a function. This you can write. What is difference is, so this indicates that jQuery will take control of your page when document is ready. Means on body load, it is just like body load. That means when DOM is loaded, then jQuery will take control. If the DOM loaded, you want it to take control, then you write the previous technique. So many times people give you an option like Many times people will tell you that you can write like this, you can write like that also. So, but actually there is a specific reason why to write in this way. If you want jQuery not to take control of the browser, if you want jQuery not to, then you can write like this. That means you are saying that jQuery will take control only when document is read. So, but this is not good for browser objects like window, history, navigator. It is not good for them. If you are dealing with browser objects, then if you are dealing, this also works. Document dot write. I said hello jQuery, and this is also working fine. So this is also working fine. This is also working fine. But you have to decide. So whether your jQuery is going to take control from the document or it is taking control from the window. So that depends on your requirement. If it is taking control from the window, then you just use a function. If it is taking control from document, then you have to use this technique. You have to use this technique. So it depends. It depends on how you want to manage, how you want to configure, and how you want to manage, right? Technically, there are two techniques, so you can use any of them. So this is good for DOM manipulations. And if you want at a higher level, then you can use the simple global function here. You can just define the global function and use it, right? Depending on the requirement, we can handle it. So we can manage that here. Now, important here is how jQuery is going to take control over your HTML element. That means how jQuery can handle the DOM manipulations. So how jQuery can handle DOM manipulations, like how it can access the elements, how it can use the elements, how it can interact with the elements. Very simple. The point is jQuery, actually JavaScript, how it will do? Generally JavaScript have get element by ID, get element by ID. So get element by tag name, get element by class name. So get element by class name. So many options we have learned. These are all the options we use in JavaScript. And jQuery advantage is jQuery, in order to access any HTML, jQuery uses all of your CSS selectors. Whatever CSS selectors you learned, all CSS selectors can be used by jQuery in order to access the HTML elements. That means ID selector, class selector, type selector, combinators, basic selectors, pseudo selectors. We learned so many selectors. It can use all those selectors. jQuery can use all your CSS selectors to access HTML. That is the reason jQuery is very simple in references. Very simple in references. You can use an ID selector, you can use an type selector, you can use an class selector, you can use all the CSS selectors that you have learned. For example, I will show you here. Just a simple example I will show you here. So in the page, suppose we have heading. So heading 2. Heading 2 is empty. Okay. In that we have paragraph. This paragraph is having an ID, para 1. Okay. Another paragraph is having an ID, is having a class. So para 2. Some ID and some class is there. Now, I want jQuery to get these headings, the paragraphs, and display some message inside them. Currently, it is empty. Nothing is there. We want jQuery to get it. So let's start jQuery. So dollar parenthesis function. Okay. Now I want jQuery to access this heading. We don't have ID. We don't have anything reference for that. but you can use CSS selectors. CSS have a type selector. Type selector means you can access directly by tag name. You see here, I have to just use dollar, and in the parenthesis, dollar parenthesis, we have to access. So in the quotations, the selector is heading to. That's it. Heading to is referring to this heading. But what is problem? You know, wherever heading to comes, it will affect that. Okay. So in the heading to, I want some text to display. Dot text. What text you want to display? So welcome. So or say this is heading 1. Heading 1. That message we want to heading 2. So that is the message we want to display. And you can see that it is going to display that message there. Okay. I want to access the paragraph 1. Then, excuse. So how we can access this? How we can access and how we can define this? So simply dollar. How you can access? So it is an ID. How IDs are accessed? Hash. So para 1. And dot text. Inside it, I want to display paragraph 1. Paragraph 1. I want to display like this. And you see paragraph 1 working. I want to access this second paragraph. Then what I am doing here? So I am using dollar, and it is a class selector. Class is accessed by using dot para 2, and dot text is equal to, so say paragraph 2. Paragraph 2, it is also working fine. That means it is also working. This is so simple. And you don't need get element by ID, inner HTML, inner text. Just simply you can query your elements and you can handle those elements. So write less and do more. It is very easy to handle the interactions. It is very easy to handle the interactions. We will discuss all the events and functionalities, how we can manage them. But remember, it can use all the selectors, CSS selectors. That means it can use, so it can use all type of selectors, like it can even use the child selectors, pseudo selectors, nth child, so nth of type. It can use all of the CSS selectors. So the advantage is whatever CSS selectors you learned, you can use them and you can access the elements with that reference. That is what actually the advantage. And very important is jQuery have a clean separation, which you will see in the next level. The code and design can be cleanly separated. Earlier in JavaScript, so our HTML elements contains coding, but here it can be more, right? Now, this is various reference methods, how you can access any element. You can access the element by using its name. So tag name, by using ID, by using class, or by using anything else that you know in CSS selectors. So that is easy. So we can easily access the elements and you can manage them. So how we can refer elements in jQuery? This is the selectors. Now how you can manipulate? So how you can manipulate HTML elements? That means you have to understand. That means first question is how jQuery refers HTML elements. Answer is by using all CSS selectors. Now how it can manipulate the elements? That means how jQuery can manipulate HTML elements. For that, jQuery provides some methods. What are those methods? So very simple. So we have method like text. We have method like HTML. We have method like val. So we have method like prop. So we have method like attr. So we have methods like show, hide, animations and all. One by one we will see. First we will see this with an example. Then we can see others. So many other, like we have CSS, we have add class, we have option like has class, we have option like toggle class. All these are the methods of jQuery. We have options like before, we have options like after, we have option like prepend, we have option like append. We will see all of them, how to use them. We have options like remove, we have option like detach. So many options are there, like empty, like each. So many functions are present. We will see them, how to use. One by one, we will go with them. What is advantage of these functions is, you may think that a lot of functions are there, but once you start using these functions, you will feel like this is the best than JavaScript. Why? Because it makes everything very simplified. It is very easy to handle. So what are these functions? How do we deal with the functions? We will see. So text is like inner text. HTML is like inner HTML. So inner HTML. So, and val is like value. You can access any value. So val is like value. So we don't need to get much options here. Just what we have to do is, let's see how we can configure and use them. So text is like inner text, HTML is inner HTML, val is like value. You can get the value, you can set the value, you can define the value. So generally, how we can define the values, how we can configure the values. Let's see one simple point here. So some manipulations also we will see. Events and everything also similar, we will discuss that. Technically, observe, first we will learn these functions and put in one example. Right, first we will learn about them basically. I don't need to explain what is inner HTML text and all. For example, suppose we have a div. A div have an ID as MSG. Then we have to access $#MSG dot text. In the text we are displaying, so welcome to jQuery. Welcome to jQuery. That is the message we are displaying. And you can see it shows welcome to jQuery. And I want to display this in bold. I will use for this. It is like inner text. So that means it cannot display that. So if you want to display with formats, then use HTML. HTML is for presenting with formats. So no need to explain much. You know that now. That means we can use HTML or you can use simply text. So we can access that element and we can use it. Earlier in JavaScript, a lot of work we have to do. So that means we have to say document dot get element by ID. So MSG dot inner HTML is equal to. Now it becomes very simple. That means you don't need to do all this. You have to just refer this with a dollar. And you have to just use this with a HTML. We have to use that just with HTML. So that with HTML and the function, whatever you want to display inside. It makes it simplified. Your JavaScript is simplified with jQuery. So HTML, so text, HTML, simple. Val is for value. If any element is having a value, you can access and configure that. For example, you have a button. So suppose you have a button. So this button is empty. Nothing is there inside the button. So button is empty. I want to put a value inside the button. So how to access that button and put a value into it? Just $button and a .val. Into that button, I will put a value register. That's it. And you can see that button is applied with that register. It has to apply. But here important is, so when you are accessing the button and configuring the button will have attributes. What are the attributes? Like button name, button value, button related, so many options will be there. So attributes, now another problem you will find here, already you know that. The main problem you will find here is, so is that element having attribute? Is it that element having property? Is that element having value and property? You have to handle that. You have to understand that. Why? Because this is just button. So this is button, and you are trying to refer this button by using the tag name. But important here is why that button is not available as tag name. That means you can see here, there is no problem, error is not coming. So you see the elements. In the elements, you can see button value is registered. It is applied. Button value is applied. So you may feel like value is not there. But actually, button contains a text inside it. Value is applied. You see, value is registered. Lot of attributes will be there. Button value, button name, button text. That means button value is applied. So, but the value is registered. This button is not an general HTML normal button. So value is applied to it. You can see we applied a value called register. For this button, value is applied. But here, if you want to display something, this is not value. This is text. That means we need to apply to text. We need to apply to value. So you have to first understand the HTML element properly which you are dealing. Is it having that property or not? Is it having that attribute or not? If it is having a property, you know already some elements have attributes, but those attributes are not available as properties. I told you that point also. Then we have other methods of applying like ATTR and properties. We will see that. Initially, it is applied, value is applied, but this is not value actually. This is not value, that is text. That is text. For how you can apply the text inside the button, how we can configure, we will see that. For example, observe here. This is simply, suppose if it is input type is equal to button. Input type is equal to button, and it ID is equal to some BTN. So then see here, I'm using hash BTN dot value. So for this kind of button, value is register, kind of value is register. You can see that it gives register. It gives register. That means for these type of buttons, value is register, working fine. But other type of buttons, it's not value. You have to do that with other properties. So first you have to know perfectly about which element in HTML you are dealing. That element is having those properties or not, or whether it is having those attributes, whether it is having those properties. The property name, attribute name is different or same. These all things you need to consider to apply. That is the reason sometimes you may think that it is not working, but it is working. But only the point is you have applied in a wrong location. So value is used for elements which supports value. Suppose for this is accessing the value. Suppose you have a text box. Suppose you have a text box. So you are writing input type is equal to text. Now it is not having an ID. It is not having an ID. Then can you tell me how to access this text box? It is not having an ID. Then tell me how to access this text box. How to access this text box? It is not having an ID. How? What is the type selector you will use? Dollar. You will write input, huh? You will write input, huh? So you cannot write input, nah? You cannot write input. It will apply everywhere, nah? You remembered we learned about, yeah, good. We learned about, I told you all CSS selectors. We have an attribute selector, nah? Good. That means input type is equal to text. Am I right? Input type is equal to text. So then value, what value you want inside it? I defined some value inside it. Input type is equal to text some value. It will get that value and display. it will get the value and display. That is what I said. You must be very strong in your CSS. You can use all your CSS selectors here. If it is having an ID, you can use an ID. So otherwise you can use an attribute selector. Already we learned attribute selectors. That means we can get and we can define that value there. We can configure that value here. So this is very important to set the value, to get the values, to set the values and manage the values. Here events also same like how you learned events, but approach is little bit different. Observe carefully. Suppose what I am doing is simply I am writing a simple logic here. Let's put a text box. So name, input type is equal to text, ID is txt name. So and here, so in the next line I will keep a heading ms id is equal to msg heading. Now here I want to access the value entered in text box and I want to display this in heading. And I want to do that when user is typing the text inside this text box. Generally in JavaScript, we write the events like this: on key up, which function to handle, function name. That function we have to write in the script, but not in jQuery. In jQuery, simply first access the text box. That means $#txt name. So you are accessing the text box. Okay. Text box on key up. That means here we have to use, so key up is an event. Key up is a function we have to write as a function. On key up, what we have to do? We have to collect the value of text box and display inside this heading. The value of text box and display in the heading. That means here what we are doing is, so $#msg, that is heading .html. Inside it, we want to display here hello, and we want to get the value entered inside the text box. Value entered inside the text box. Remember, you can use all your variables and all. You can get the value. Suppose how to get the value, var name. So is equal to, how to get the value, $, so #txt name dot val. It will get the value of text box. And this name should be displayed here. It should be displayed here. That means whatever the value is there in the text box, we are collecting the value and we are storing in a variable and we are displaying that inside the message. And this is done on key up. Now what you observe in this jQuery, key up event, that is not a special. Only the point is, you will see that there is no logic written inside your UI. UI is completely separated. So it contains only presentation. That means the body contains only presentation. No logic. Earlier we have to write logic here. That means we have to write on click. But everything is managed inside this logic area here. That means here, observe now what I am doing. I am typing something here. So John, and it will display that. It is working fine. And while I am entering the data, it is working fine. It is displaying that value. This is more easy. Actually, I don't need to declare a variable also. Here, what I can do is, here I can simply put here. I have to access that again. That means I have to use $. So $txt name dot val. I have to get the value and use it here. That means whatever you are typing here, and it has to get that and display. You can store in a variable or you can directly get the value and display here. This looks very simplified. Initially, it may look little bit confusion because you have to get used to this syntax. But this is more easier than your JavaScript. This is more faster than your JavaScript. The concept is same. The point here is write less, very less references. We don't need much interactions. Very less references we need to manage. This is very important. This is very important. So technically you can manage such interactions. So how we can set the value, how you can get the value. So how you can get and set the values. So we have three options: text, HTML, and value. Now similarly, properties, attributes, classes, adding elements, removing elements, looping, iterations, all these you can simply handle. Once you know the technique, you can easily handle, you can design all the examples that you have done in JavaScript, same here in jQuery, with less coding that you can manage. But some more terms you have to understand. How to bind with attribute, how to bind with properties. We need to know about some techniques. Then we can manage all those options, right? Initially, first you try this. Up to this, you basically try. I will upload some examples also. You try up to this. So once you do this, then other functions, how to use in jQuery, we will discuss. Then we will design examples with jQuery. We will create some examples with jQuery. So then you will get a clarity on jQuery. Okay. So that we will see in our next session. So right, in our next session, we will see about that, right? Yeah. Yeah, next session on Monday. Huh?